It's funny how we spend so much time looking forward to the future, but we only really understand our lives when we look backward. As I sit here today, looking at the calendar, it's hard to believe that 2025 is already behind us. For me, this year wasn't a series of huge cinematic moments. It wasn't like a movie. Instead, it was a year of quiet realizations, the kind that happen at 2 a.m. when you can't sleep, or while you're staring out the window on a rainy Tuesday. I learned a lot this year. Some of it came through success, sure, but most of it came through the uncomfortable stuff, the mistakes, the changes I didn't ask for, and the slow process of growing up, even though I thought I was already grown. I've realized that if I want 2026 to be different, I can't just carry the same old habits and mindsets with me. I have to actually use what 2025 taught me. Welcome to An Amazing Storyteller. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Before we dive into these 5 big lessons, I want to ask you something. If you had to pick just one word to describe your 2025, what would it be? Think about that for a second. And if you feel like sharing, I'd love to see that one word in the comments later. It really helps the channel when you engage with the stories. There's a specific question I've been asking myself lately. Is the person I am today ready for the life I want tomorrow? Let's talk about what this year actually showed me and how we can all move into 2026 with a bit more clarity. The myth of being ready. I want to start with a story about a project I had been planning for a long time. It was something I really cared about. It could have been a new career move, a creative hobby, or even just a difficult conversation I needed to have. I had it all mapped out in my head. I bought the notebooks, I did the research, and I told myself, I'll start as soon as I'm ready. But ready was a moving target. In January of 2025, I told myself I needed more money in the bank. By March, I told myself I needed to take one more online course to be qualified. By June, I was waiting for the perfect time when life wouldn't be so busy. I kept looking for a green light from the universe, a sign that said, okay, now you know enough, now you are safe to begin. The problem was, the more I prepared, the more nervous I got. I was stuck in a loop of thinking without doing. I treated readiness like a destination I could reach if I just worked hard enough on the sidelines. I thought that if I waited long enough, the fear of failing would disappear. I spent months watching other people start similar things. Some of them weren't as prepared as I was. Some of them made obvious mistakes, but they were moving, and I was sitting still clutching my perfect plans. I realized that my desire to be ready was actually just a very polite way of being afraid. It was a mask for my ego trying to protect me from looking like a beginner. In 2025, I learned that the bridge between a dream and a reality isn't knowledge. It's just the willingness to be bad at something for a while. The moment of realization. The turning point happened on a random Thursday in late July. I remember sitting at my desk, looking at a folder on my computer that I had titled Future Plans. I realized I had been adding files to that folder for over 6 months, but I hadn't actually done anything. It hit me all at once. I wasn't waiting for more information. I was waiting for a feeling of certainty that doesn't actually exist. I was looking for a guarantee that I wouldn't fail, but life doesn't give out guarantees. I looked back at the biggest moments of my life, moving to a new city, starting a new job, even meeting new people. Was I ever truly ready for those? Not really. I usually felt nervous, a bit overwhelmed, and totally out of my depth. But I did them anyway because I had to. The growth happened because I wasn't ready. I started to understand that ready is a myth we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. If you feel 100% ready to do something, it's probably because you've already done it before, or it's too easy for you. True progress requires a bit of a gap between what you know and what you're doing. That afternoon, I didn't finish my research. I didn't buy another book. Instead, I just took the very first, smallest step. I sent the email. I hit publish. I made the call. My heart was beating fast, and my hands were a little shaky, but for the first time in 2025, I felt alive. I realized that the feeling of not being ready is actually the feeling of growth beginning. Starting messy. Once I finally took that first step, things didn't suddenly become perfect. In fact, they were pretty messy. I made mistakes almost immediately. My first attempt wasn't polished, it wasn't professional, and honestly, it was a little embarrassing. But here's the secret I learned in 2025. A messy start is infinitely better than a perfect non-start. When you finally stop planning and start doing, something interesting happens. You stop worrying about theoretical problems and start solving real ones. All those things I was worried about in my head, half of them didn't even happen, but new challenges popped up. Things I never could have predicted while I was just sitting there preparing. I learned more in 2 weeks of actually doing the work than I had in 6 months of reading about it. I realized that experience is the only teacher that actually sticks. You can watch 1,000 videos about how to swim, but you won't understand the water until you're actually in it, splashing around and trying to keep your head up. By the end of the summer, my project started to take shape. It wasn't exactly what I had imagined in my perfect plan, but it was better. It was real. It had character. I started to take pride in the mistakes because each mistake was proof that I was finally in the game. I stopped asking myself, is this perfect? And started asking, is this moving forward? 2025 taught me that the people we admire, the ones who seem so confident and prepared, usually started out just as lost as the rest of us. The only difference is they were willing to be messy in public while everyone else was waiting for a perfect that never comes. Why 2026 needs your imperfect start. As we look toward 2026, I want you to think about that one thing you've been putting off. You know exactly what it is. It's that idea that keeps popping up in your mind, the one you've tucked away because you don't think you have the right tools, the right timing, or enough experience yet. If 2025 taught me anything, it's that waiting for the perfect moment is just a slow way of giving up. We often treat the new year like a finish line, but it's actually just another day. If you're waiting for January 1st to magically give you the courage to start, you're gonna be disappointed. Courage doesn't come from a date on a calendar. It comes from the action you take while you're still feeling unsure. Think about it this way. Where would you be right now if you had started that thing 6 months ago? Even if you had failed, you'd be 6 months smarter. You'd know what doesn't work, which is just as important as knowing what does. For 2026, I'm making a pact with myself, and I hope you'll join me. Let's stop trying to be experts before we've even begun. Let's be okay with being beginners again. Let's commit to the imperfect start. Whether it's learning a new language, starting a business, or finally fixing your sleep schedule, just do the messy version today. Because the truth is, the version of you that is ready only exists in the future, and the only way to meet that person is to start as the person you are right now. The busy trap. As 2025 went on, I hit a wall. I remember looking at my calendar one Sunday night in October. Every single hour was filled. I had meetings, social events, chores, and a long list of goals I wanted to hit. On paper, I looked like I was winning. I was busy, and in our world, being busy is usually seen as a good thing. We wear it like a badge of honor. But when I sat back and really looked at that calendar, I felt a heavy sense of dread. I wasn't excited about the week ahead. I was exhausted before it even started. I realized I had fallen into the busy trap. I was spending my time, but I wasn't managing my energy. I would spend 3 hours answering emails that didn't really matter, and by the time I got to the work that actually required my brain to be sharp, I was fried. I was giving my best hours to my least important tasks. I started to notice a pattern. I was finishing my days feeling productive because I had checked 20 things off a list, but none of those things actually moved my life forward. I was running on a treadmill, moving fast, sweating a lot, but staying in exactly the same place. It was a hard realization. I had plenty of time, I just didn't have any spirit left to use it. 2025 forced me to admit that time management is a lie if you aren't managing your energy first. You can have all the time in the world, but if you're mentally and emotionally empty, that time is useless. The physical cost of yes. By the middle of the year, my body started sending me signals that I was choosing to ignore. It started with small things, a headache that wouldn't go away, feeling tired even after 8 hours of sleep, and that constant feeling of being on edge. I was saying yes to everything. If a friend asked for a favor, I said yes. If a client asked for an extra task on a weekend, I said yes. I even said yes to social events I didn't actually want to go to, just because I felt like I should. I thought I was being a good person, reliable, hardworking, and helpful. But there's a dark side to being a people pleaser. Every time I said yes to someone else's request, I was accidentally saying no to my own well-being. I was giving away pieces of my energy until there was nothing left for me at the end of the day. I remember one specific Friday evening. I was supposed to meet some friends, but I was so drained that I just sat in my car in the driveway for 20 minutes staring at the steering wheel. I didn't have the energy to move, let alone be fun or conversational. I realized then that my yes didn't have any value anymore because I wasn't bringing my full self to anything. I was just a ghost showing up to fulfill an obligation. The physical cost was real. I was stressed, my diet was getting worse because I was too tired to cook, and I stopped exercising because I didn't have the time. But really, I didn't have the fuel. 2025 taught me that your energy is a finite resource. It's like a battery. If you keep draining it without recharging, eventually it's going to stop working altogether. And no amount of hustle can fix a dead battery. Protecting my focus. Once I realized I was running on empty, I knew I had to make a change. I decided to try an experiment. I started looking at my day not in terms of hours, but in terms of focus blocks. I noticed that my brain is usually at its best for about 3 hours in the morning. After that, my energy starts to dip. In the past, I used those 3 hours for small things, checking social media, responding to messages, or cleaning my desk. By the time I sat down to do the big stuff, my best energy was already gone. So I started protecting those hours like they were made of gold. I put my phone in another room. I didn't check my email until noon. I told people, I'm not available during this time. At first, I felt guilty. I felt like I was being selfish or rude. But a strange thing happened. Because I was using my best energy for my most important work, I was getting more done in 3 hours than I used to get done in 8. I also started practicing the polite no. When someone asked for something that would drain me, I'd say, I'd love to help, but I don't have the capacity for that right now. To my surprise, the world didn't end. People weren't angry. Most people actually respected it. I learned that boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They are gates that let the right things in. By saying no to the things that didn't matter, I finally had a yes that meant something for the things that actually did. The energy audit. As we get ready for 2026, I want to share a simple tool that helped me get my life back in 2025. It's called an energy audit. Most people track their money or their steps, but very few people track what makes them feel alive versus what makes them feel drained. Take a look at your typical week. Don't just look at what you did, but think about how you felt during those activities. There are engine activities, the things that give you power, like a good workout, a deep conversation, or working on a hobby you love. Then there are drain activities, the things that suck the life out of you, like mindless scrolling, toxic people, or a cluttered workspace. In 2025, my drains were winning. For 2026, the goal isn't to have a perfect schedule. It's to make sure your engines are stronger than your drains. If you find that a certain habit or a certain person consistently leaves you feeling exhausted, you have to ask yourself, why am I allowing this into my new year? You wouldn't leave a hole in your gas tank and expect to drive across the country, so why do we let energy leaks stay in our lives? As you move into this next year, try to identify your focus hours, that time of day when you feel most sharp. Lock that time down, protect it, use it for your dreams, not for someone else's inbox. When you start managing your energy instead of just your time, you'll find that you don't actually need more hours in the day. You just need to be fully present in the ones you already have. The boring truth about success. In 2025, I finally had to face a very boring truth. I think we all love the idea of a big break, that one lucky moment or that one massive burst of motivation that changes everything overnight. We see it in movies, and we see it in those overnight success stories on social media. But looking back at my own year, the goals I actually reached had nothing to do with luck or intensity. They were the result of things that were, honestly, pretty boring. I used to think that to get healthy, I needed a massive lifestyle overhaul. I thought that to grow my business or learn a skill, I needed to pull all-nighters and work until I collapsed. I was looking for a shortcut. But 2025 showed me that shortcuts are usually just long ways to nowhere. The things I'm proudest of today didn't happen in a flash of inspiration. They happened because I did something small, repeatedly, even when I didn't feel like it. I realized that big results are just the interest you earn on small habits. It's like saving money. You don't get rich from one paycheck. You get wealthy by consistently putting a little bit away over a long time. I stopped looking for the secret and started looking at my daily routine. I realized that my life is basically just a collection of my repeated actions. If I wanted a better life, I didn't need a miracle. I just needed a better Tuesday. I needed to focus on the things that are too small to fail. The February fail. Think back to the start of 2025. Like most people, I had a massive list of resolutions. I was going to wake up at 5 a.m., hit the gym every single day, read 2 books a week, and completely cut out sugar. For the first week of January, I was a superhero. I had all the motivation in the world. But by the middle of February, I was back to my old ways. I was tired, I was sleeping in, and those books were gathering dust on my nightstand. I felt like a failure. I told myself I just didn't have enough willpower. But 2025 taught me that willpower is a limited resource. It's like a muscle that gets tired. If you try to change everything all at once, you're asking your brain to do too much work. Your brain loves comfort and patterns. It hates sudden, massive shifts. When I tried to overhaul my entire life in 1 month, my brain eventually rebelled and dragged me back to what was comfortable. I realized that the reason my big goals failed wasn't because I was lazy. It was because my goals were too big to be sustainable. I was trying to run a marathon before I had even learned how to walk around the block consistently. I stopped aiming for massive change and started aiming for tiny wins. I traded the hour-long gym session for a 10-minute walk. I traded the read 2 books a week goal for read 5 pages before bed. These things felt almost too easy, like they didn't even count. But because they were so easy, I actually did them. And for the first time in my life, I didn't quit in February. The power of showing up. The most interesting thing happened once I committed to those tiny wins. For a few weeks, it felt like nothing was changing. If you read 5 pages of a book, you don't suddenly become a genius. If you walk for 10 minutes, you don't look in the mirror and see a different person. This is the danger zone where most people give up because they don't see immediate results. But I stuck with it. I decided that in 2025, my goal wasn't to be the best. It was just to be the person who doesn't miss. By April, those 5 pages a night had turned into 4 finished books. By June, that 10-minute walk had naturally evolved into a 30-minute habit because I was already out the door and it felt good to keep going. I wasn't using willpower anymore, I was using momentum. I learned about something called the compound effect. It's the idea that small, smart choices plus consistency plus time equals a radical difference. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. At the top, it's tiny and slow, but as it keeps moving, it picks up more snow, gains more speed, and eventually becomes unstoppable. The real test wasn't the days when I felt inspired. The real test was the days when I was tired, or it was raining, or I was just in a bad mood. In the past, I would have skipped my habit entirely on those days. But in 2025, I told myself, just do the smallest version. If I couldn't do a 30-minute walk, I did a 2-minute stretch. This taught me that showing up at 10% is much better than showing up at 0%. When you show up even when you don't want to, you're telling yourself that your goals are more important than your mood. That's where true confidence comes from. It's not about how you feel, it's about the promises you keep to yourself. Your 2026 non-negotiable. As we stand on the edge of 2026, I want to challenge the way we usually set goals. Most of us start the year with a wish list. We want to be richer, fitter, and happier. But a wish isn't a plan. If you want 2026 to actually look different from 2025, you don't need a long list of resolutions. You need one non-negotiable. A non-negotiable is a habit that is so small, so simple, and so vital that you do it no matter what. It's the floor, not the ceiling. For me, in the latter half of 2025, it was writing down 3 things I was grateful for before I touched my phone in the morning. That's it. It took 60 seconds, but it changed the flavor of my entire day. When you pick your non-negotiable for 2026, don't pick something that requires a ton of motivation. Pick something that requires almost none. If you want to write a book, make your non-negotiable 1 sentence a day. If you want to get fit, make it putting on your running shoes every morning. The goal here isn't the physical result, at least not at first. The goal is to prove to yourself that you are reliable. 2025 taught me that we lose our spark when we stop trusting ourselves. We make plans, we break them, and eventually we stop believing we can change. By picking one tiny non-negotiable habit for 2026, you are rebuilding that trust. You are telling yourself, I am a person who follows through. Once you believe that about yourself, everything else, the big dreams, the career shifts, the lifestyle changes, becomes so much easier to handle. So, what's your one thing? What is the smallest action you can take in 2026 that you refuse to skip? Think about it, because that tiny seed is where your biggest growth is going to come from. Being with someone. As I looked back on the first half of 2025, I noticed something that honestly made me feel a bit ashamed. I spent a lot of time with the people I love, my family, my friends, my partner, but I wasn't really there. I remember a specific dinner with an old friend I hadn't seen in months. We were sitting at a nice table, the food was great, and she was telling me about a big change in her life. But every time my phone buzzed in my pocket, I felt this magnetic pull. I'd glance down at the screen, check a notification that didn't matter, and then look back up, nodding my head as if I had heard every word. I was physically in the chair, but my mind was miles away, floating in the digital world. I was guilty of proximity without presence. We think that just being in the same room as someone counts as connection, but it doesn't. In 2025, I realized that attention is the most valuable gift you can give to another person. In a world where everyone is distracted, giving someone your full, undivided attention is almost like a superpower. It's becoming rare. I started to see how my habit of half listening was hurting my relationships. People can feel it when you aren't really there. They stop sharing the deep stuff and stick to the surface level small talk because they don't feel heard. I realized that I was lonely even when I was surrounded by people because I wasn't actually connecting with any of them. I was too busy managing my digital life to enjoy my real one. The digital cure. The realization that I was physically present but mentally absent was a wake-up call. I started to notice that even when I was alone, I wasn't really with myself either. I was constantly filling every quiet gap, waiting for the bus, standing in line for coffee, or the 5 minutes before bed, with a screen. I was losing the ability to just be. I decided to try something simple but surprisingly difficult. I called it the phone first rule, but in reverse. When I was with someone, my phone stayed in my bag or face down on a different table. I wanted to see what would happen if I treated a conversation like it was the only thing happening in the world. The first few times I did this, I felt an actual itch. I felt a weird anxiety, wondering if I was missing a breaking news alert or an important email. But then something beautiful happened. After about 10 minutes, that anxiety faded away. I started to notice the details again. The tone of my friend's voice, the way they moved their hands when they got excited, the small jokes we used to make. I discovered that the cure for that modern feeling of loneliness in a crowd isn't more social media followers, it's more depth in our real-life interactions. In 2025, I learned that true connection doesn't happen through a comment section or a like button. It happens in the pauses of a real conversation. I started leaving my phone in the car when I went for walks with my family. I started keeping the dinner table a tech-free zone. By removing the distraction, I wasn't just being more polite, I was actually feeding my own soul. I realized that 2025 was a loud year, but the most important things were actually being said in the quiet moments when the screens were dark. The conversation that changed me. There was one particular afternoon in November that really drove this lesson home. I was sitting on a park bench with a friend who had been going through a really tough time, a silent struggle that most people didn't know about. Usually, I would have tried to fix the problem. I would have offered advice, told a story about myself, or checked my watch to see how much time we had left. But this time, I remembered what 2025 had been trying to teach me. I decided to just listen. No phone, no helpful interruptions, no looking for the exit. For about 20 minutes, they just talked. They shared things they were ashamed of, things they were afraid of, and things they hadn't told anyone else. Because I was truly present, I caught the small catch in their voice. I saw the way their eyes softened when they finally let the secret out. When they finished, there was a long silence. In the past, I would have felt the need to fill that silence with noise, but this time, I just sat there. Finally, my friend looked at me and said, "Thank you for actually hearing me. I feel like I can breathe again." That moment hit me hard. I hadn't done anything. I hadn't solved their problem or given them a brilliant plan. All I had done was offer my presence. I realized that most of the time, people don't need us to be their therapist or their coach. They just need us to be a witness to their life. It made me wonder, how many of these moments had I missed over the last few years because I was too busy looking at a screen? How many times had someone tried to reach out to me, but I was too occupied to notice the invitation? 2025 showed me that the most powerful form of love isn't a grand gesture. It's simply being the person who doesn't look away. Deepening your circle. As we head into 2026, I'm thinking a lot about the quality of my relationships over the quantity. In 2025, I realized that I had a lot of contacts, but not enough connections. I had hundreds of people I could message, but only a handful I could actually call if things went wrong at 3 a.m. Social media makes us feel like we're staying in touch, but scrolling through someone's photos isn't the same as knowing their heart. For the new year, I want to challenge us to focus on deepening the circle we already have. We don't necessarily need more friends. We need to be better friends to the people who are already there. One way I'm doing this for 2026 is by choosing depth over reach. Instead of trying to keep up with everyone I've ever met, I'm picking a few key people and making a conscious effort to be truly present with them. This means more phone calls and fewer text marathons. It means more face-to-face time where the phones are tucked away. I've also learned that deepening a connection requires us to be a bit more vulnerable. In 2025, I spent a lot of time pretending everything was fine because I didn't want to be a burden. But I realized that people actually feel closer to you when you share your struggles. It gives them permission to be real too. So, as you look at your calendar for the coming months, don't just fill it with networking or social obligations. Schedule presence. Make time for those long, wandering conversations that don't have an agenda. Ask the people in your life real questions, like, what's been the hardest part of your week? Or what are you actually excited about right now? The strength of your life in 2026 will largely depend on the strength of your relationships. And the strength of those relationships depends entirely on how much of yourself you're willing to give when you're standing right in front of them. The baggage we carry. As 2025 began to wind down, I realized I was carrying a lot of weight that didn't belong to me. Have you ever felt that? It's like walking around with a heavy backpack full of rocks, but you've been wearing it for so long that you've forgotten you can actually take it off. For me, those rocks were things from 2024 and even earlier. I was still carrying the guilt of a mistake I made 2 years ago. I was still holding on to resentment towards someone who had let me down. I was even holding on to an old version of myself, a version that had different goals and different dreams, and I was punishing myself for not being that person anymore. In the middle of 2025, I had a moment of clarity. I realized that letting go isn't a one-time event. It's not like throwing a piece of trash in the bin and never seeing it again. It's more like a skill you have to practice every single day. I used to think that holding on to my anger or my regret made me strong or cautious. I thought that if I kept thinking about my past failures, I wouldn't repeat them. But all I was doing was keeping the pain alive. I was so focused on what went wrong in the past that I didn't have any room in my hands to grab the opportunities of the present. 2025 taught me that peace isn't the absence of trouble. It's the refusal to carry old trouble into a new day. I had to look at my baggage and ask, is this helping me become the person I want to be in 2026? If the answer was no, I had to learn how to set it down. It wasn't easy, and sometimes I'd pick the bag back up without thinking, but the more I practiced leaving it behind, the lighter I felt. The necessity of outgrowing. In 2025, I had to face a truth that felt very uncomfortable at first. I was outgrowing parts of my life. We often talk about growth as if it's only about adding things, adding more money, more skills, or more friends. But real growth is also about subtraction. It's about the things you leave behind. I realized that some of the friendships I was trying so hard to keep were actually based on a version of me that doesn't exist anymore. We were holding on to who we used to be, rather than who we are now. I felt guilty about it. I felt like I was being mean or disloyal because I didn't want to spend my Friday nights the way I did 3 years ago, or because I didn't share the same values as some of the people in my old circle. But 2025 taught me that outgrowing people, or even outgrowing your own old dreams, isn't a betrayal. It's a requirement for moving forward. If you want to grow into a tall tree, you eventually have to break out of the small pot you started in. It doesn't mean the pot was bad, it just means it's too small for where you're going. I also had to learn to be kind to the old me. I spent a lot of the year being frustrated with myself for not knowing better back then. But you can't blame your past self for not having the wisdom you only gained because of those past experiences. I had to let go of the need to be perfect in retrospect. In 2025, I learned to say, that served me then, but it doesn't serve me now. Whether it was a habit, a toxic mindset, or a relationship that had run its course, I realized that holding on too tight to the past just prevents the future from happening. Carrying the light stuff. As the final days of 2025 slipped away, I took a long look at everything I had been through. The messy starts, the energy crashes, the quiet conversations, and the things I finally had the courage to let go of. It wasn't a perfect year, not by a long shot, but it was a deeply honest one. The biggest realization I'm taking with me into 2026 is this: you don't have to carry it all. We often enter a new year feeling like we need to be a completely different person, armed with a million new rules and a heavy list of expectations. But what if the goal for 2026 isn't to be more, but to be lighter? I've learned that the most successful version of me isn't the one who is doing the most, it's the one who is focused on the right things. It's the version of me that chooses a 10-minute walk over a skipped workout. It's the version that chooses a deep conversation over a scroll through a feed. It's the version that is okay with being a beginner, even when it feels awkward. As I look ahead, I'm not making a list of massive, impossible goals. Instead, I'm looking at the lessons I've gathered like small stones in my pocket. They're light, they're useful, and they remind me of where I've been. 2026 isn't a new you. It's just the next chapter for the real you. And the real you is already much wiser than you were 12 months ago. If we can just remember to protect our energy, show up in the small moments, and stay present with the people who matter, then 2026 is going to be more than just another year. It's going to be the year we actually start living the lessons we've worked so hard to learn. Stepping into 2026. From the imperfect start to the energy audit, and finally to the art of carrying the light stuff. Looking back, 2025 wasn't just a year of time passing, it was a year of training. Every mistake was a data point, and every moment of exhaustion was a signal. Now, here we are in 2026. The air feels different because you are different. If there is one thing I want you to take away from our time together, it's this. Your life is built in the quiet, boring moments. It's built when you choose to put your phone away. It's built when you do your 1 minute of a habit when you'd rather stay on the couch. It's built every time you forgive yourself for being human and decide to try again. Your 2026 Manifesto. Prioritize energy over time. A full calendar is a trap. A full spirit is a strategy. Value presence over productivity. Being there for someone is the greatest currency you own. Choose small over massive. The compound effect is your most powerful ally. And let go over holding on. Leave the baggage of 2025 at the door so your hands are free for what's next. The perfect version of you is a myth, but the evolving version of you is sitting right there in your chair. 2026 doesn't need you to be a superhero. It just needs you to be honest, to be present, and to keep showing up, even if you're showing up at 10%. Thank you for reflecting with me. It's been a privilege to be your thought partner through these lessons. Now the screen fades, the reading ends, and the real work begins. Go out there and make 2026 the year you stop waiting and start being.